You and I both know that our clients, they don't actually remember most of what we talk about in our meetings or most of what happens in our meetings, both prospects and current clients. But behavioral scientists have shown that people, they don't store 45 minutes or 60 minutes of a meeting in memory. Instead, they remember two moments in the meeting. It's the peak moment and then the end of the meeting. It's actually called the peak end rule. And once you understand this, you can start designing your meetings so that clients and prospects, they walk away feeling more confident and more loyal and even more likely to refer. So today I'll show you what the peak end rule is and why it matters for your advisory practice, for my advisory practice, and then how you can use it in two types of meetings, both the intro call, I'll give you some practical steps there, and then how to use it in review meetings with current clients. So let's start with the principle itself. The peak end rule, it comes from Daniel Kahneman's work. And he's the Nobel Prize winning psychologist. And he discovered that people don't judge an experience by its total length or all the details. Instead, they summarize it in their mind based on those two moments: the most intense or emotional point, that's the peak, and then how the experience ends. So think about that in your own life. Maybe you went on a vacation in the past year. You don't remember every breakfast or every walk that you took or every Uber ride that you took, but you do remember the most fun or the most stressful moments, and then how the trip ended. That's really the story that you tell people whenever you're talking about your vacation. And clients are the same way. They won't remember everything you said in the meeting about tax strategies or about investment allocation, but they will remember the moment where they either felt a rush of clarity or a hit of worry. And they'll definitely remember the feeling that they had at the end of the meeting. Now, here's why this is so important for us advisors. The technical side of planning is becoming a commodity, right? AI, robo platforms, new software, they're all closing the gap. But the client experience, that's what's going to set us apart and keep that gap a little bit wider. The peak end rule is going to give us a lever that we can actually pull to shape that experience as well. So when a client says, that was a great meeting, or when they text their friend, you should talk to my advisor, it doesn't usually happen because just the tax loss harvesting strategy that you communicated or the reallocation that you gave them. It's because they had a peak moment or an insight or a relief, and because you ended the meeting with confidence and clarity. So let's make it practical. How do you design your meetings for the peak and the end in those two meeting types? And by the way, if I haven't met you yet, I'm Dave Zoller and I own an advisory firm. And I use this channel to share the things that got us to over 4 million of recurring revenue. And then next week, I'm actually going to share the 3 things we did this year to increase our AUM by over 110 million in just 9 months with 2 lead advisors. So be sure that you're subscribed and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss that one. So now let's start with intro calls. So most advisors run these pretty formulaically. They build a rapport, they gather some facts, they talk about their goals, and then they talk about next steps or what it's like to work together. But if you want to apply the peak end rule, you need to create an emotional peak. And one way is to ask this powerful question or question like it. Something that we do with our prospects is we increase the value of their ideal future state. So our prospects, all of them who come in, are close to retirement. So we ask, when they bring up retirement, we say, oh, that's great. What's something that you're looking forward to doing in retirement that you can't do now? And a common thing that they say is travel. And then we ask, what places or countries do they want to, what are they thinking about with travel? And let's say they say Italy. Say, that's great. So imagine a year from now, you're retired and you're relaxing at a cafe with your wife in Florence and the sun is just coming up and you're watching people walk by. How are you feeling in that moment? And then they instantly get transported to that future state and they imagine the feelings of what it feels like there. It's really quite a powerful interaction that we have. That's often sometimes the peak of the meeting. And notice how I said feel like and not look like, because that word alone shifts people from surface level answers to emotions, and emotions are more sticky. That's really the peak moment. Then for the end of the intro call, we usually end it by focusing on values. And you've probably heard of the Bill Bacharach values question, but what we'll often do to end it on a high note is we'll save that for the end. So we'll say something like, "Can I ask you a non-financial question?" And say, "Yeah, of course. What's the most important thing in your life right now?" And then they'll say something, either each other, or they'll talk about kids, or they'll talk about freedom or security or whatever it is. And then we just say, "What's important about blank that thing to you?" And then we have a conversation around that and we affirm them and then we end it. It ends the meeting in a great way. But now let's move on to what to do in a client review meeting for peak end rule. But first, let me know if you're liking this so far. If it's helpful, click the like button. That way I know what type of videos I should make more of. But okay, so let's get into the review meeting. These can easily become stale, a normal review meeting, if you're just looking at performance or numbers or updates. But the peak end rule can give a way to make each meeting memorable and really increase your value. And in every meeting, this is what we show them to get a peak state. We'll show them all the past milestones they've accomplished as we've been working together. Usually it's 3 boxes, a summary of however many years they might have been with us for 4 years. So this box is some of the highlights and accomplishments they've had, whether it is a retirement date or a big Roth conversion thing that saved taxes or whatever it is. And then we have the recent ones from the previous year, the highlights. And then we have possible next steps or goals that they're going for. So they see all the things accomplished, and then they see the things that will make the next step, the next milestone that they're looking for. And this creates a peak with a visual, and people love to see the progress that they made. And they get reminded of just the positive moves that we've helped them make. And it increases our value, and it increases your value too. The other thing we do is we like to show them a visual of where they started in terms of net worth and then where they are now. Hopefully it's higher. And usually it's current investment value, and then it has net of what they put in minus what they took out. And usually there's pretty large gap there. And we show the dollar amount, we show the visual chart, and that is usually one of the highlights of the meeting. People love to see that. And then for the end, we usually end with gratitude and then one clear focus. So for people that are on track and doing well, we want to just remind them you're doing great. You're on the right path. And then next time we get together, we're going to focus on the tax plan just to make sure we're making the right moves this year before the end of the year or whatever it is. You affirm them if they're doing well, and then you think about the next thing that you're going to do. That usually ends the meeting, not just with a good feeling, but also something to look forward to. They leave not just reassured, but also energized with direction. We've actually been talking a lot about the peak end rule in the Future of Advice Academy. If you want to be a part of that, you can join. You just have to apply. The application is below, and it's advisors who are growing their firms, and it's focused on strategy, the marketing strategies we're using, and then some of the sales strategies we're using, and then the client experience. And there's a lot more in there, but look for the application below. So to sum it up, don't let the peak end rule, don't leave it to chance. Script it out, design it, make it intentional. And if you do, your clients are going to walk away not just more informed, but transformed. And that's the difference between a planner and then a trusted guide. To go a little bit deeper on this, here's a video I made a few years ago about the best first meeting questions that we ask in the intro call. This hasn't changed over the last few years, and it continues to deliver great results. And I'll see you in that video. Take care.